Hey everybody, hopefully you're having a great day. I know it's been a while since I posted some stuff on the channel, and I wanted to kind of wait till I had something of meaning, something interesting to post. I was able to spend this last weekend at TwitchCon, and specifically Arc Raiders had a booth there. They did a panel there. I got to spend some time with the developers as well as some of the other members of the team and ask some questions, as well as interface with some of the community. So it was super awesome opportunity, and I have some unique things from some of my engagements there. I got to first ask the first question in the live panel, which was awesome. That was streamed on Twitch, and I'll put that in the description below. But also, I got to find out some interesting things about, for example, the frequency in which you can reset your talent tree, and something that's maybe even more interesting is how the matchmaking is going to work. So anyhow, without further ado, let's hop in. And like I said, I hope you had a great time with the Server Slam last weekend. I know it was just a bite-sized amount of content. Super stoked for the game to release a week from today, and we get to dive into the whole thing, which includes more than Tech Test 2, which was still a phenomenal game. So anyhow, let's hop in. Hey everybody, we're at TwitchCon, right in front of the Arc Raiders booth here, and it's been the Server Slam weekend. Hopefully everyone's had a good time, but yeah, I have some footage today from the panel, which took place yesterday, which was super awesome. A lot of intel about the game. Also some other things that I found out. So all in all, TwitchCon's been awesome success, and yeah, stay tuned. So this is Zach from the Arc Raiders team.
Hello, hello.
What do you do on the Arc Raiders team?
I work with animation. Animation specifically.
Awesome. How long have you been with Embark?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So since the inception, or a little shortly after?
Shortly after, yeah. When I joined, the game started going to production for real. Then the road there was pretty rocky, so it's been some resets and pivots back and forth, but now we're at the edge of it.
Awesome. Well, we got 11 days left, and thanks to people like Zach, this game's like phenomenal. Super stoked. So yeah.
Me too.
Awesome. And thanks for chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Right there, yes.
Yeah. Hey, in Tech Test 1, you had kind of a community event where everyone was like contributing towards something that ended up opening those bunkers. Are you intending, I know it looked like, at least in the build that's going to be released, there's kind of the new area, or the area that's like mysterious. Is that driven by a community event? You probably can't answer that, but I'm just curious if that's the thing.
So in Tech Test 1, there was a community event that required a lot of cooperation in order to open up some bunker doors. Is this type of thing something that we can expect in Arc Raiders as something that's very regular for players to experience, part of the live service?
Yes.
I was hoping for a slightly longer sentence.
Yes, probably.
All right, next question here.
So yeah, that was kind of a funny interaction. I'll post the remainder of that video, or the Q&A part of that, at the end of this. But there's a lot of good questions asked, a lot of exciting things that we haven't seen. They were a little bit evasive about some of the things that haven't been revealed about the game yet, which is super exciting, to be honest with you. Even seeing the growth from Tech Test 1 to 2, and then from Tech Test 2 to the Server Slam, and there's also been feedback from the community about what they saw, the differences they saw graphically, and some other feedback that came from the Server Slam that they are planning on addressing before the game even releases. So, you know, if you're familiar with the finals at all, if you're familiar with Embark's history with that game specifically, they are very receptive to community feedback. When the finals first launched, they were putting out patches weekly. They are still putting out weekly patches, but now they're kind of doing like a mid-season update for more significant changes. But point being, Embark is a company that definitely listens to their community. As part of that interview, They've listed specifically one of the pillars or mantras of the organization is gameplay first, and there's a lot of insightful feedback about the history of the game, right? And if anyone's not been following it, originally it was a PvE game akin to a Helldivers. The feedback was it was generally not extremely fun. The worlds were the movement speed was significantly faster. There weren't doors on the buildings, and ultimately the team didn't feel like they had the amount of resources required to maintain a roadmap to support content-wise a game like that. Obviously, they've worked for years on a lot of the AI components and the AI learning, which you can see in some of my other videos, which has really set this game apart in regard to the PvE, where all of the arc or the robots are physics-based. And so, again, in this interview, they go over how, from an animation and even from a rigging perspective, everything has to be readable like a machine. And one unique thing they mentioned is the game used to have health bars. So you would shoot things and you'd see the health bars on them, etc. And their testing revealed that people's eyes were only looking at health bars. They weren't actually looking at the environment, looking at the world, looking at the robots, looking at the art. So I thought that was really cool and unique, again, based on the amount of feedback that they've received over all of the tests. And while we're familiar with 3 tests that I'm aware of, there was kind of like a first test that had some leaked footage, and then there's tech test 1 and 2. When I had spoke to one of the members of the team, he'd mentioned 7 or so tests that had gone on, where again they were just kind of testing out what the general reception was to the game. So very iterative development cycle for this title. Super exciting, again, to see them being receptive, even from the server slam. I was quite honestly surprised. I assumed that they would be, sending off to Microsoft and to Sony to start certifying the final build, and the fact that they're addressing and making changes just from last weekend's test is phenomenal, and again, is not surprising if you've been following the finals at all. All right, so as promised, there are 2 bits of information that I was able to find out through some conversations I had. One is the way that the talent trees are going to work with resetting, because if you're familiar at all, once you put points in, you can't pull those points back out. So if you recall, they discussed the new, for the lack of a better term, prestige system, or a self or voluntary wipe, we'll call it, maybe akin to Hunt Showdown's wiping mechanics. But basically, the thought is you're able to effectively reset your account and get a cosmetic or a reward. And the timetable on that is 6 to 8 weeks is kind of the window. I'm sure we'll have more of an exact window, but let's call it 6 to 8 weeks. That is a frequency in which you'll be able to reset your talent tree. So just as an FYI, 6 to 8 weeks, you'll be able to reset your talents. So when you make that initial commitment, when you start getting those talents, make sure you really think about it. There's several talent calculators out there. In addition to that, I don't know what the level cap is. I believe Shroud kind of had pulled some of that out, but I don't know if that's going to be representative of the final game. So, just a consideration. Maybe there's an ability to fill out all talents. I doubt that, but I'm not sure. So just as an FYI, 6 to 8 weeks. So be thoughtful about where you put your talents. The second point is how the matchmaking works. So, the question is there SPMM, or what determines, who you're going against in a round? So firstly, they've discussed specifically as a solo, your priority queue is against other solos, and we've seen that in both Tech Test 2 as well as the Server Slam. But when it comes to all things equal, right? Let's say as a solo, or as a group of 3, or as a group of 2, what is the determinant factor around who you're going up against? And the thing that was told or revealed to me is it's based effectively on the value of your overall gear score. So if everyone's going in with top tier weapons, then the matchmaking, and I'm sure there's considerations around matchmaking times and things that may make it a little looser, but that is the initial determining factor, is the value of losing what you're bringing into the raid effectively, which, you know, we've seen similar as we look at other games, specifically Arena Breakout. You have to have a minimum, you know, loadout to go into certain tiers of the game. I think it's interesting, you know, in discussing with some of my friends who play Hunt Showdown, you know, the thought that people who have, you know, Mosin and Dolches and you know, these high-end, very expensive weapons, you know, the fact that they're going to be put in a lobby, or they would be put in a lobby, that's not how it works in Hunt, but if they were to be put in a lobby with people with equivalent gear, very interesting. You know, on the flip side, there's also maybe a little less of the zero to hero mentality, where you could go in with simply a pistol and hope that you would kill somebody with a bunch of high-end gear and get out with it. So anyhow, you know, obviously it could come out in the wash if people in your group have, you know, high-end gear, but you have low-end gear and whatnot. So it's yet to be determined how that's going to play out. I think it's very interesting. I think it probably will feel fair when it comes to matchmaking. So that was an exciting little tidbit I was able to capture. I'm just going to let this gameplay from Tech Test, from the Server Slam play out. And then at the end of this video, there is the Q&A session from TwitchCon. So if you like Arc Raiders and are looking forward to the launch, I will be doing a live stream at launch. I will be giving away some copies of the game. I gave away some copies of the game when we were hoping, when we kind of got the announcement of the release date at the Summer Games Fest. And I'll be doing the same a week from, or on the 30th, wishful thinking, the 30th of October. So please, on YouTube here, I'll be live streaming. Would love to have you. I'll be giving away several copies of the game and continuing to create content for this game. It's such a passion project from Embark. It's been encouraging to hear that they have autonomy with their publisher, or their, you know, Nexon effectively, where they're really able to spend, as you know, you've seen, especially if you've been following, you know, 6 years really getting this right. They're, you know, again, I go through this in a lot of my videos, but originally the finals wasn't even a title that was going to be released by Embark. When Embark Studios was created, this was the first IP that they started working on. And then as they continued to iterate, and the team from DICE and Battlefield were able to move quickly on a first-person shooter and with destruction and kind of unique in that space, they ended up getting it done quicker than Arc Raiders. But as you can see, I think I've seen the meme online, like, Embark likes to cook. They really want to put out a good quality game here. The fact that it's a $40 title is phenomenal. I'm super stoked about all the things we don't know about the game to actually start sinking our teeth into the game. So we'll put together some additional content, strategies, feedback. But in the comments, please let me know your thoughts on the matchmaking system, what you think that's if that's a good idea, a bad idea from your perspective. And then also if you have ideas around content for launch. But regardless, thanks for tuning into this video. We will see you in a week from now on the 30th of October for the long-awaited, which I say long-awaited, I was, you know, there at the Game Awards in 2021 watching the Dancing on My Own trailer. I was also told that there was a new trailer that's going to be coming out with a launch trailer, which is not surprising, that maybe pays a little homage to that trailer. So anyhow, really excited for the next week. And thanks again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. And again, I'll leave you with this remaining content and then the session from TwitchCon, which is super interesting.
Down there. Down there.
A damaged arc motion core. Up here.
Head home at the water treatment elevator.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome in to the Arc Raiders Developer Q&A session. Nice to see you all here live in person here at TwitchCon San Diego, and also if you're watching at home on Twitch chat. Hope you guys are enjoying the server slam right now. My name is Artie. I am a finals streamer and host, and Embark Studios has kindly asked me to come out here and talk about Arc Raiders as well. I very heavily enjoyed my time with Arc Raiders during the previous tech tests, and now I get to enjoy it here at TwitchCon, and I'm not able to enjoy the server slam to its fullest extent because I'm out here, grinding, but you guys are able to grind at home on the server slam, and you'll be able to enjoy the game when it fully releases on October 30th. But without further ado, I want to talk about who we're seeing here. We have a few of the amazing developer team here from Embark Studios. Embark is a very small studio. There's not a lot of developers, and so the ones that we have here are very, very good at their jobs. They have a very small pool to choose from. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce everybody. Actually, why don't you all introduce yourselves? Robert.
Hi. Robert Samelin. I am the art director for Arc Raiders. I could go on and on. Let's not do that. I'll hand it over to the next one.
Yeah, Nora?
Hello, I'm Nora. I'm a tech designer working on Arc Raiders for many years, so that's me.
And I'm Virgil Watkins, and I'm the design director for Arc Raiders.
Awesome. Welcome in. Round of applause for our devs, everybody. Hello. Alrighty. These guys have made the game that you guys all enjoy and came here for. So yeah. Basically, throughout this event, we're going to be talking to each of these developers, asking specific questions about their craft and what they've brought to Arc Raiders and how they have created the game that we have all fallen in love with. Of course, Arc Raiders, let's talk about it a little bit. It is an extraction shooter, PvPvE, but it didn't always start out that way. And for Arc Raiders specifically, everybody that I've spoken to that's played the game has understood that Arc Raiders has something about it that makes it different from all the other extraction shooters on the market right now. Throughout this genre, there are a lot of people that have various gripes with it. Sometimes it can be a little bit too aggressive. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to get into. And if you make an extraction shooter for a more casual audience, make it more approachable, sometimes that can destroy the entire purpose of it to begin with. And so, as a lot of players have been talking about throughout the entirety of the server slam and the previous tech test too, Arc Raiders has just this aura about it that makes it different, that sets it apart. But I want to start this off by just sort of looking at the server slam a little bit. Let's play a little teaser trailer for you guys. If you aren't familiar with Arc Raiders, here is a little snippet of, what you can experience this weekend. Alrighty, pre-orders available now as well, and honestly, for Arc Raiders, this is the game that I've seen so many people say that they are breaking their no pre-order rules because they're trying it out here in the server slam. I think the very first post I saw on my timeline today was, remember, no pre-orders, and then, oh, nope, never mind. This is amazing. So, yeah, let's talk to some of the devs. Let's ask some questions. And for everybody here in person, we are going to be taking questions from the audience, but Twitch chat, I see you. You're going to be also able to ask questions. So feel free to throw all your questions that you have for these guys up here in chat. I'll do my best to pick out a few key ones, and we can, get some answers. I know that there's a lot of people that have very burning questions. So without further ado, I think that we should start by talking about what makes Arc Raiders special. What makes this extraction adventure different from everything else? And I would say that a lot of that has to do with the fact that it is PvPvE, right? And there is a lot of nuance that goes into where that brings us. And so I think, Nora, I want to start with you and ask, how do you balance an extraction adventure game like this with PvPvE elements?
So I think it's actually really fun with PvPvE. I know a lot of people who knew the game from before knew that we were previously a PvE game. And when we made the move to PvPvE, we actually did quite an elaborate and meaningful decision of keeping the PvE as much as it were before. So we really try to keep the enemies quite threatening and keep the behaviors quite complex. So we want to balance it in a way where you know that you both have to keep your eye out for players, but also for the AI. But then obviously a lot of extraction shooters actually try to bring the PvE a little bit back, because that can take away from PvP. I know a lot of competitive players can get a little bit sad if they're third-partied by a Rocketeer, which makes sense, but it is also part of what we have decided to do. We want the game to really feel like you are there and you're fighting other raiders, but the main threat is Ark, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, so the main focus being PvE, and other players being there just adds to the set piece. And with that, there is a very specific balance that you have to hit to make sure that it's not, like you mentioned, that they're not just being overrun and this is just a nuisance. And so Virgil, I think you're the best person to ask for this next question is, when it comes to getting that balance, I've seen a lot of people talking about the fact that now where it feels like you really have to form fragile alliances with other players and kind of have that friendly vibe where it's not necessarily always shoot on sight. How did you manage to strike that balance? Was that always a goal for you?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think having a strong PvE element is what gives context to the PvP. Otherwise, you just sort of end up with a death match with a little bit of extra stuff happening on the side. So, I mean, we went through a lot of iterations with the PvE, as Nora mentioned, and we went up and down with difficulty and added and removed capabilities. So it really only starts to shine when the world and the setting and the context you're in the match are truly threatening and truly dangerous to you. Because if you can just ignore the circumstances you're in and only focus on fighting other players, then that's all it kind of devolves into. So it's a very conscious effort with the mechanics we've added, the way enemies are designed, the way they're placed in the levels, and the other activities and things that happen throughout the round give texture to the PvP and make the player have to make choices and considerations while they engage in it. So I think that's kind of core to the experience, and we've really just tried to pursue that as much as possible.
Awesome. And I mean, speaking of it just being core to the experience, I think that a lot of players' frustrations within the genre of just extraction in general is that sometimes you're forced into PvP. I mean, there are a lot of players that might not feel like they're as good as everybody else, and that balance within everything else. I think we'll get into that a little bit later. But as far as talking about the questing and the actual storyline of Ark Raiders, I have to ask, am I going to be forced to get into PvP at any point, or is it really, as you say, that PvE is the primary focus?
You will never have to be forced through our questing to do PvP. One of the things, yeah, thank you. One of the things that we really wanted to save is the fantasy of the game, which is you are the last of humanity living on Earth, and there are killer robots out to get you all. And if we start telling people that the thing that we want you to do is to go out and kill the last remainder of humanity, that would kind of break a little bit with the fantasy that we want to go for. And we also want to keep the game fun for people who like PvE, those initial fans that we got from the game before. Like me, myself, I am a kind of pacifist in the game. I like playing PvE a lot, and I also like hopping in and trying to save people that are being slaughtered by other players. So
I mean, it's great that the game actually allows for that to happen. We were speaking a little bit before this about just the experiences that people have had within the playtests, where you're just seeing sides of humanity that you've never seen before. And I think that kind of stuff is hilarious to me. But yeah, I mean, obviously a lot more goes into balance than just how strong the AI are, how strong the enemy players are. And so I think that another really big aspect of this is making sure that the loot pools and whatnot actually make sense to the player and like on a progression level, because progressing through an extraction shooter, an extraction adventure is so much different, right? So where do you start with that? How do you figure out what the right balance is, how much stuff that someone can carry, how much you're expected to be able to extract with, finding, you know, where somebody is able to, I have nothing, where do they come from? Virgil, how did you sort of iterate on that to get to where we are today? Because everyone has been saying it feels comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, we went through a lot of iterations, both on the loot spawning system, how we distribute loot, how we determine what loot to distribute. And part of it is driven, of course, by the actual items in the game. So you've got the things you can use, like weapons, shields, the augments, and then the crafting materials that make up these things. So that really informs what our entire loot pool looks like, and then we distribute that across kind of the gradient of like low-end stuff to high-end stuff. But for us, it was very, very important to put those things in as understandable locations as possible. So if you've played or if you've seen some things, all of the loot has a category assigned, which is thematic in nature, so something like mechanical or technological. And our map areas bear those themes. So you can check the map and you can see what corresponds to those. And then further to that, we've tried to match the nature of the thing you're finding with the actual container you find it in, so it makes contextual sense. If you need something electrical, you break open a fuse box or a generator or whatever else, and then that is a through line we followed with everything possible. Some things become more general, and some things become more specific, and that's given context by the area as well.
Awesome. I mean, that's great. I love to hear, you know, that little background into it. But I mean, when it really comes down to as a player, how I'm growing, how I feel like I am progressing through this world and finding better items and whatnot, there is, you know, sometimes like, hey, this is going to be an area where I'm going to fight players, or this is an area where I'm going to fight different, you know, PvE enemies. And is there any specific way that I can intuitively understand what I'm going to encounter when I get into those places? Like every time I want this purple piece of loot, I'm going to have to fight something crazy for it? I mean, is that something that exists in the game where it's going to be, eventually we'll recognize these patterns, or is it always going to be different and dynamic?
Yeah, I could do that. So we do try, in terms of just affordance for the player, to give you some of this information. So the map does tell you where potentially high value areas are, and it gives you a good idea of what you could stand to find there. And that is a pattern we tend to stick to. And then a layer on top of that is the locked rooms we have in each map. So, and when you find the keys to these rooms, we cross-pollinate them across the map. So you may find a key for one map while playing another, and gives you like kind of your own mission, I suppose, to go to those. And then the rooms themselves contain a variety of things, and the keys are on a gradient of rarity. So a really low-end key might unlock a room and it's got some kind of good stuff, so think of it like a small treasure chest, whereas some of the higher-end keys unlock substantial stuff where you have a full squad's worth of like nice loot up there. And then also it tends to be the Ark more heavily patrol these kind of hot zones and will have a higher presence there, so you do have to make a bit of noise and fight your way through unless you're crafty and can get around in some alternative ways occasionally.
Alrighty. Well, so I mean, I think that there is like some innate understanding with how you can get through that progression with an extraction adventure, and especially going through just getting better gear, being able to then fight in those higher level areas. But one thing that we've been talking about recently, one thing that you guys actually revealed recently, is how the wipes will work. But another aspect that maybe hasn't been touched on as much is the quests themselves, right? To reach that point to where you will be able to prestige and go on to the next. What's the sort of structure to complete those quests that don't require PvP? How long would something like that take? How often do you think players are going to be hitting a wall where if somebody wants to come into the game, there are so many people that haven't necessarily wiped yet? Is that something that's like going to be an issue, or do you think that this prestiging system and the way that you've set this kind of unique wipe that is chosen by the player, like, do you think it's going to be working out well?
I mean, that's the hope. I think if anyone's seen the blog post, I think I tried to make it pretty clear that this is an attempt to not just do an off-the-shelf solution. So, as said, in that post, like, we want to do whatever we possibly can to respect the player's time, and part of what you're talking about with new players coming in and being fearful of where other players are at, we may touch on some of the more like weapon balance stuff a little bit later, and why that may not be as scary, I suppose, to those players. But certainly the way we planned it, it's around these 8-week cycles, and the way we've tried to balance it is players who even play like somewhat regularly. If you're actually focusing on trying to do this, you should be able to achieve it. So it won't be the case that you need to spend, you know, an absurd amount of time to participate in this system. We want people to feel encouraged to go through this and follow this process.
Awesome. I love to hear that. So, Robert, I feel like we haven't spoken with you a lot. So I want to come back to maybe some more design-focused questions here, and just talk about the design of Arc Raiders itself, right? I mean, everybody has fallen in love with the aesthetic of this game, and I know that when we spoke about it, we talked that it kind of started from a vision of creating a cinematic masterpiece that was also just a really fun game. But can you dive into that a bit? I mean, I want to hear, you know, from your words again, just sort of how this entire style came to be, because this is one of the most unique looking games that I've ever seen.
So this is risking to be a mini TED Talk. I'll try and keep it quite short. I think the best way to summarize what we're achieved with the sort of visual design for Arc Raiders, it goes almost hand in hand with the formation of the studio and what we attempted to do and what we tried to achieve. So early on in the inception of the studio, we tried to figure out what kind of games we want to make, and at the same time developing something that we were visually interested in exploring, things that we wanted to do. And a lot of us that worked together in the sort of first stumbling steps of Embark came from a background where we'd make very grounded games, reality-based games, and things that worked really well for us. And we knew what we were doing with these things, and it boots on the ground, intuitive, believable, and visually arresting games. But we also wanted to stretch our legs a bit more and see what else we can do, because we had built up this desire to explore something else, something that goes beyond what we've done in the past. And at the same time developing what the game is, something that allows and has all these affordances that we want to develop with the game, something that can stretch the bounds of just reality. So we start with a very, very sort of grounded, believable approach to things, and then inject all these other sort of sci-fi isms that goes on top of this. But these also fall within a kind of a framework of having plausibility and believability attached to them, so that they serve a high degree of allowance for what we want to explore game-wise. So, you know, it's all based around the idea of things that are plausible. You will understand what they are, because they are sort of intuitive in their approach. They are intuitive in their design. You can often discern what this will do based on what it looks like.
Yeah, it bleeds into every aspect of the game, where you can tell when you're looting an arc, you know why you're getting this from there. You can kind of see what it does. At the same time, not only just loot, but with enemies, you can tell, hey, this flying thing, I think I know how to take it down, even though I've never seen one before. And I just think it's so impressive that you're able to do that, but also in a very unique art style. And talk to me a little bit about the whole like VHS glitchy aesthetic as well, like kind of blending in with everything, because that's the one thing that, like, my wife loves that part of it. I think everybody does too. Like, how did that part fit in with everything else, the grounded realism?
Another really long answer, but I think in part exploring sort of sci-fi that we wanted to sort of explore and dig more into. We jokingly said that when we developed the initial first steps and started even exploring the branding of it, the logo, we set this thing of going, it should look like it was made in 1979 for whatever reason. Maybe it's because the majority of the founders of the studio were born around that area. It goes back to this sort of idea of a nostalgia, but we were all really attached to the idea of making something that has a sort of, let's call it retro-futuristic approach to it, so that we can lean into the things that, again, are perceived as very believable. You kind of recognize what these things are. They're based in something that could plausibly exist. And it's a perfect sort of area to dig around in.
Absolutely. And I mean, that also, again, it just sort of ties into everything else. This whole game just flows so smoothly. And part of that is that when we see these designs, we see all this just grounded sci-fi, and I can tell, okay, this is how this arc is gonna roll across and maybe take out me or take out that team. Nora, how did you start to then take what you were given from the art direction and then put that into the game? Like, what was the back and forth like between those dynamics of actually implementing all of this in the game itself?
So we've always had this really a really intricate relationship with art direction, because we have a sort of motto, which I'm sure a lot of studios do, which is we go for gameplay first. So we've always tried to see, okay, what is it that we want out of this enemy? Like, how do we want it to work? We have an amazing AI team that, they sit down and they go through designs, they go through all of the gameplay systems that we want to have in. And then we also, as I'm sure that people who have played knows, we have our enemies being completely physicalized, which means that both the art direction and us on design have to take that into account. So as you mentioned, with like a big flying enemy, you see the thrusters. We, for a long time, had a little bit of a different design where we kind of wanted it to be a bit sleek and a bit armored. A lot of them. And then we realized that, hey, you don't understand that you're supposed to shoot off thrusters. So instead, we went for, okay, let's move those out. Let's not make it so sleek so that you can see that, oh, this flying thing has a big honking thruster sticking out. I can probably shoot at that, and I will be able to destabilize it. And it's obviously both having to think about how the art is presenting what you can do with the enemy, showing like on the enemies that have these big legs that like, oh, there's a big yellow joint. I can probably shoot at that and it will take that leg out. But then also designing the gameplay for the enemies to be, okay, and when I shoot out that leg, that is actually going to affect that enemy. That is going to give me an advantage against this, so that we can have that intuitive gameplay that also changes all the time depending on how the players decide to play.
Yeah, and it's a really fun sort of back and forth in discovering these things, because we set up these rule sets that we adhere to. So it's highly high tech, it's advanced technology, but there's no magic, and this gives us very different approaches. So it is a creative back and forth that just feeds into and strengthens this whole thing.
Awesome. That's super, super sick. I love hearing that sort of backstory. I think that like a very often overlooked aspect of game design that every player interacts with and has no idea that they're interacting with is the amount of information that is given to the player at any moment is very heavily controlled. Some games have just a health bar over their enemies, where that's going to dictate exactly how you're going to be able to play, how you know how fast someone is going down. At the same time, other games choose to send that visual information differently. How did you guys decide on what level of information to give a player at any given time? Where to find out, hey, like, I am about to destroy this arc? How did you test, like, is this too much info or too many different states of destruction towards this thing? Or even just things on the actual player character themselves. How do you go about that process? How did you come to where you are now with Arc Raiders?
It's actually so fun because we used to have health bars.
And damage numbers.
Yes, damage numbers, health bars, we had everything. And what we very quickly realized was that when we had health bars and damage numbers, people looked at health bars and damage numbers, and they did not look at the enemies. They did not look at the players. They didn't look at the rest of the VFX and the gradual destruction that we have that has really become a big thing on the enemies themselves. So yeah, we tried that out, and we were like, okay, this is making people just look at numbers, and we don't want them to do that. We want them to feel immersed in the game. And then, of course, came the very difficult challenge of making sure that they still understand what is happening when we don't have numbers.
I mean, that was a really long process, but it lies in the also mission statement that we had, that you why make a game that this sort of immersive and visceral and beautiful if you're not reading the game, if you're reading a HUD? So that poses like a pretty bold mission statement, and it was a lot of back and forth in figuring this out. But when everything comes together, it really serves that purpose. Things do behave like you expect them to. They react the way you expect them to. You can clearly read it. And that's, I think, one of our biggest achievements, if I may be so.
100%. No, I think I 100% agree with you because, for example, one of the changes that I think a lot of people very easily noticed between the previous tech test and where we are now at the Server Slam is the Bison is now known as the Leaper. And so I asked Virgil, is that on you to make that decision of like, hey, that maybe we do need to give some information because some people jumped out of their chairs the first time they encountered one of those things.
As far as the name, you mean? Was that my decision?
Yeah, was it?
No, I was surprised everybody else.
Okay.
No, it's, but no, we with the enemy certainly, and as you're evoking, like we want you to have some context for what you're about to experience. So most of the enemies did follow a convention of like you could sort of understand what they were going to do to you. So, you know, we have like the Wasp and the Hornet, and that kind of gives you an image of what they'll do as they attack you. And we have the Fireball, which I'm honestly shocked we kept the name of, because I just made that as a joke during the first meeting we were talking about, because it was literally a sphere that shot fire. And then people took me seriously.
Intuitive design.
Yeah, well...
Intuitive naming, I'd say.
Well,
so
exactly.
whenever someone would call something, why not?
Yeah, and it works in both directions, because in Tech Test 2 we had Pop, which at the time, due to limitations, it was just sort of a smaller fireball with no armor. And then really we like the name Pop, so now it actually just runs up to you and explodes. So I think that's
almost a bit of a situation where the name was like, oh, people were like, oh, pop, is that going to pop? And then it didn't, and that was quite disappointing. So we're like, let's make it pop.
Let's make it pop.
Yeah.
There it is. I love that, honestly. I mean, yeah, the vast variety of enemies in this game was really astounding to me. And also, not only that, but the variety of maps and locations. And of course, right now in the Server Slam, there's only a very minor vertical slice of what's going to be available in the full release. But talk to me a little bit about just, you know, we spoke earlier about how previously it was a very different game. And when you guys adapted that very different game to what we have now, how did that change in the maps department and in the way that you guys have created the worlds that players are already falling in love with?
I mean, yeah, we had to make a lot of concessions. So if people saw like the original trailer that we launched, it was just a huge open world that we had with points of interest, but there was really nothing to them in terms of like gameplay. They were set piece or like backdrops to like the greater gameplay. So once we switched to this game, we had to build out an immense amount of detail. Like interiors before had effectively nothing in them. You'd run through them at 40 kilometers an hour and not interact with anything. And then, so we added props everywhere, and then loot items, and then lights and treatment for everything. The game didn't even have doors until like a year after that.
Wow.
And then we're like, oh, we should probably have things you can open and close. So that worked out pretty well. And then in the old game, the pace was much faster because you're sprinting across, 10 kilometers of desert doing nothing. And then once we brought it down to the kind of pace it is today, then suddenly you're looking at the environment around you and trying to navigate that. And we really wanted to make sure that players were looking around and appreciating the spaces just as much as we want them to appreciate the enemies. And then that obviously goes hand in hand with the fantastic concepts and groundwork that was already done for the art direction, and then we just kind of kept going deeper on that.
Just kept going deeper, and I mean, there's a lot more though than just the direction and how long it takes to go across. I mean, just thinking about taking the engagements versus the arcs versus the engagements with players. Are there spaces that are strictly designed with players in mind, or is everything with the thought that there's probably going to be some person that brings a Rocketeer through that door at some point, and we have to account for it? Or how are we going about this?
I mean, we, as two of the maps, at the very least, were basically created when we were still a PvE game. They kind of set a good tone of us always wanting to have PvE in spaces. And that works really well because then you do feel that there are really no areas where you're safe. But now that we have also introduced PvP into the mix, it is a really interesting kind of situation where you have to balance the, players wanting to maybe run in and hide from a Rocketeer, but then you're around the corner and there's another player there. But that also actually pushed us to, again, want to make sure that we always have threat from the AI inside as well. Like if you're rounding a corner, there could be a player there, but there could also be an enemy that will jump at you and kill you, because we want to make sure that tension should be sort of even. So if there's a space that is more tense for PvP, it should also be able to be tense for PvE. PvE. And the same with if you have a space that is more secure, it should be secure from both ends so that you don't have, here's PvP only, here's PvE only.
Yeah, so I mean, even like with that, it brings me back to thinking about what Virgil said about doors, right? So I mean, doors must have been a very, very deep deliberation of like where they go, how they work. No,
I think actually the process was I made the doors and then I put them where all the door frames were first, and that was good enough for like 2 years.
So it was just a Tuesday kind of.
I literally just right-clicked all the assets and swapped it for the new blueprint that was the door.
All right, so maybe not all of the design is.
We revised them later.
Incredible. But yeah, I mean, honestly, everything from like playing yesterday just feels so good. And you've clearly been cooking this game for a long time. And it's ready for the world to finally have in their hands. And what is the one thing that has survived the longest, outside of the maps, from the old game? What is the one thing that has survived the longest?
The enemies. Or?
I think it's actually the zip lines.
Oh my God, it's true.
The code for the zip lines is ancient and complicated, and we're afraid to touch it.
Okay, somebody said that the zip lines feel very similar to how they are in the finals. Is that, am I getting close to what this conversation is, or no?
I mean, I have no idea if I'm sure by now they rebuilt their zip lines from the ground up.
They have done a lot to make sure that the zip lines work very well for their destructible environments, which we have not done. So we'll hope that we don't start blowing up buildings anytime soon. And if we do, we're going to have to get their zip lines.
All right, well, chat, this one's for you then. How the zip line's feeling? I'm going to give the direct feedback right here. But okay, so conversely to that, then, what is the most recent thing? Obviously, the game that we're all playing now has been, getting polished, and some things have been finishing up from time to time. But as far as how this game has come to form where it is now, what's the most recent thing that has been added that's like the cherry on top, or the punctuation to it all, like the last thing on the list before you're ready to ship it out?
That's tricky.
I mean, I think that
The publicly known things. Right?
well, I think there's a really fun thing that we have added not too long ago, that is augments, that we actually haven't had for a very long time. That is something that we've been working on for a long time. Our player team, especially one of our dear player designers, Kevin, he has put a lot of work in making sure that the augments have a really cool way of augmenting, obviously, the way that you play. So that you can go in with a looting augment, which gives you some benefits to your run speed and your carrying capacity, and maybe not as much tactical stuff, or offensive, but it's going to help you out if you just want to scavenge. And then, of course, same with we have healing augments and tactical combat augments, and I think those have been really fun because it really lets you take a unique player feeling like this is the way I want to go about the game. And then they can do that much better now, which is really cool.
Awesome.
Also, the rooster has hats.
Very important. Very important.
That is
Scrappy
actually
hats.
newer than the augments,
Scrappy
yes.
hats.
And I think that we're going to get a little bit more information about that later on as well. But, I'm so excited to also dive into what you just said. I mean, we did speak a little bit about balance earlier, but I think talking more about what separates ARC from everything else is going to be super fun. We can ask a little bit more questions, get some questions from chat. But for now, I do want to ask everybody here, How many people that are here at TwitchCon are going to play Arc Raiders at launch on October 30th? That is a unanimous 100% of hands. Absolutely incredible, except for the coach of Alliance over there. He's playing the finals. Everyone else, though, super excited. Chat as well. Are you guys excited? I want to hear, are you happy and ready for October 30th? How many here played during Tech Test 2? Okay, I would say it's close to 50%. And so everybody here, did you guys all play today, though? Everybody got a chance to play today or yesterday? If not, make sure you head down to the Arc Raiders booth to get to check out the Server Slam. I know everybody at home watching this, they have this up on the other monitor, and Arc Raiders is on the main screen. So, honestly, I want to say that everybody at Embark is so thrilled to see how engaged everybody has been with the Server Slam and with Tech Test 2 before it. I don't know if I'm actually allowed to share like the numbers, but genuinely it was so cool to see how many people were playing the game at one time, how many people were just sharing everything online, how much my feed was blowing up with just Arc Raiders, scrolling for 10 minutes, not seeing anything else. It's impressive, and I love to see that. And the community that's being built as well. People sharing the clips on Reddit of, I didn't trust this guy, and then we got out pointing guns at each other. Or even people here at the booth. I watched somebody commit armed robbery. And so that's one thing that's possible, I guess. But yeah, it's the community that's being built right now is something that has not been seen before. And I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm up here, but because I saw it on my timeline. Is Embark just makes different games. And I think that everyone here, we should give Embark a round of applause for just what they've done here. And honestly, I have the video evidence to prove this. I'm not just yapping. Let's take a look at some of our favorite moments here from, this is actually from the Tech Test 2. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Whoa! Get back inside! Holy crap, dude! That thing dropped right off the other player! They jumped! Did you see it? It's down.
Dude! Cool. It's not gonna blow up. Oh god, it's not dead!
Trippet's here, get in,
Get it! Press the button, crafting!
I'm typing. Oh my god!
Crafting!
Wait, do not do it.
Wait, are you in? Crafting, no! Crafting, get in! Crafting! Why would you get out?
Only way up.
Alright, well, I'll go first. I got the biggest juice.
What?
Oh.
I'm hitting it, cover me. Hit the button.
I killed two?
Oh no! No! Hit the button!
Hit the button! Hit the button! Yes!
Hit the button!
We made it out! We made it out! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Do it, look at me! I'm looking. Here we go! Go!
Oh shit!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Wait, that's actually sick.
3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
Oh my god! God! Holy shit! Whoa!
Flares at the end. Was that the Raider flares?
It's a trap you can put down to fool people into thinking a raider got downed, and that guy put down a lot.
I mean, it's amazing how many things are possible, and we are just starting to scratch the surface of what is possible up at the surface, top side above Speranza. I mean, it's absolutely amazing to see that kind of stuff. I cannot wait to see all the clips from the Server Slam, and more than that, what's going to happen on October 30th. I really do think that we got something special. So now, chat, I'm going to turn this to you, and also everybody here in the audience. I have a couple more questions for them, but until then, let's hear from you guys. Who has some questions? Right there. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, in Tech Test 1, you had kind of a community event where everyone was like contributing towards something that ended up opening those bunkers. Are you intending? I know it looked like, at least in the build that's going to be released, there's kind of the new area or the area that's like mysterious. Is that
So in Tech Test 1, there was a community event that required a lot of cooperation in order to open up some bunker doors. Is this type of thing something that we can expect in Arc Raiders as something that's very regular for players to experience, part of the live service?
Yes.
I was hoping for a slightly longer sentence.
Yes, probably.
All right, next next question here. You in the front with the glasses and the broadcasting experience.
Have you guys nerfed the snap hook at all? Have you guys nerfed the snap hook at all?
Yes, probably.
Alrighty, the next challenge is if anybody is going to be able to get an answer longer than 2 words from these guys. I think that person in the back looks like he's going to be able to do it.
Hi. I haven't been able to play yet. These two dragged me here, and I want to play it. But so one of the things was in the extraction shooter games, one of the biggest problems is the anti-cheat. So one of the things that I'm worried about on this, because I had one extraction game that I loved, but the cheaters ended up being the ones that like shuttered the doors basically on that project. And one of the things I'm doing is what are you having that's going to help like alleviate that? Because that does seem to be an epidemic in this genre of games.
Yeah, I can give you kind of a high-level answer. I don't have hands-on with the anti-cheat itself, but of course it's a very severe problem that we're aware of. So we have a great team who's putting this stuff together. We use a combination of our own things as well as existing software for this, our own heuristics, things like that. So it is an active part of our development, and it has been for a long time. And obviously with the finals being live, we have a lot of experience cleaning up that. So I think we're in a very good state with the finals today, and that should ideally carry over to what we have with Arc Raiders.
Yeah, always an arms race, and also the fact that it is a premium title that costs money to enter. When someone gets banned, they're much less likely to come back in. But yeah, fantastic questions here. Somebody from chat actually asked a little bit more of a fun question here that will get more than one answer. What are your personal favorite weapons or arcs? Robert?
Ooh. Favorite weapon is, I think, a tie between the Anvil and the Tempest.
Alrighty. Nora, what's your favorite arc?
Oh, my favorite arc? Oh no, but I love them all so much. It's like asking a mother to pick her favorite
But maybe we
child.
can nuance it. Favorite one to
play
design or to destroy?
Oh my god. So I think I work as a tech designer. I mainly work with the implementation and helping gameplay designers get the ball rolling. But I think one of my favorites to work on and with has been Leaper, Old Bison, because of how crazy it is. It's really fun, and working with ML as well for that one, for the locomotion, has made it a very fun challenge to make something that works really well with all of those technical quirks. So
Amazing. All right. Any other questions here in? You right? Sorry.
In the far back.
Oh, in the far back. Yes. Sorry.
So my question is, for the tens of thousands of people here in attendance, is there any chance of extending the tech test for 2 days or a day? Because standing in line for like 3 hours to play, that's not really working.
Virgil's got the answer, and it's short.
Oh, I think
actually it wasn't. No, I mean understood, but unfortunately we can't extend it. It's not quite so simple to do these things, unfortunately.
The Server Slam is going to be just this weekend, and that window to play the Server Slam is slowly closing, but you'll be able to play it at its full release on October 30th. Any further questions here? Let's see if we can get the microphone to. I like the color of that jacket right there. Let's go for that. Oh, and then we'll go for you next one. There we go.
So I haven't been able to play Arc Raiders yet, so I'm actually very excited to play it on the 30th. I play other kind of extraction shooter games though, and a big problem that I realize is the dev teams listening to the community too much. So how do you guys plan on balancing listening to the community, your own dev team, and also even streamers when they complain that there's not enough PvP when you guys are really PvE based? So that's really my question, is just how do you guys plan on balancing that?
I think it's important to remember that listening to your community is critically important, but it's how you take what you get from them and what you do with it. So on the dev team, or certainly within design, of course, we practice intent-based development, and it's just as important to understand what the intent behind what your community is telling you is. They will never have the context you have as a developer with what they're trying to tell you, but they will always be pointing to something that's true for them. And so if you can understand the intent behind what they're saying, it becomes far easier to blend that with the intent of what you're developing and find something that ideally works as a middle ground. So even if someone may say, I really hate PvP, or you should have left it as PvE, or don't nerf the snap hook, there's intent on both sides. And ideally, you end up with something that's stronger as a result of taking those two halves and making it into something.
Amazing, yeah. Always looking at the final product. Alrighty, next question here.
Would you guys be able to add the special night variants of Arc to high tier areas? Because I know you guys kind of wanted to keep up with like PvP being intense in some areas with the PvE in those areas. So would you consider adding special night variants for the Arc?
That is definitely something that we have been considering, and that we already tried to do a little bit with making sure that some of our more high tier and complex enemies show up around areas where, if you guys have played, you might know the dam and the hydroponic bay down in the swamp. We always make sure that we have some high tier enemies down there so that they can kind of be a little bit of a threat to players when they're going in for that high tier loot. And making a lot of really cool special enemies that push players a little bit more and challenge them a bit more is something that we want to continue on doing as live service. So.
Awesome. Great answer, honestly. Well, I think I want to just ask, I guess, if anybody here who has played, I want to actually get an answer or a question from you guys for your thoughts on the Server Slam. I want to see if anybody has any questions related to anyone who's played today. Anybody has a specific question about what they've played? Maybe in chat if you have any questions about what you've played. But until we get those questions rolling through, I think, Robert, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Server Slam, where we are right now, right before we're about to go into launch? How are you feeling about Arc Raiders, the product that you helped develop?
I'd say over the course of making games, I've worked on games for almost 20 years. This is by far the most heartwarmingly warm response from players that I've ever experienced. I think as games developers, is much like a chef is loving the own sauce that you're making is risky. You might get overconfident. And I think we've been working at this for so long. We've been cooking this for a long time, and we're certainly proud and very excited about the game we're making. But the response that we saw from Tech Test 2 and onwards, I think it's almost unreal. So it is amazing meeting you all here on TwitchCon and just getting to meet you and hear and share your excitement with it.
Awesome. That's really beautiful. Really great answer, honestly. And I mean, yeah, Nora, I extend the same question to you, right? So everything up until now here, how are you feeling now that you've gotten some feedback from Server Slam? Feeling like your work on the AI has gone in a good direction?
I feel amazing. It's been so cool being here and talking to everybody, and with this long journey going also from a PvE main game to PvPvE, but still seeing so much excitement, hearing so many players be so happy about where we've taken it is really cool, and also hearing people be happy even when they get jumped on by the Leaper or blasted by the Rocketeer. I'm really happy that you guys still like the game.
Awesome. And Virgil?
I mean, yeah, it is pretty astounding. Like, we didn't anticipate Tech Test 2's response whatsoever, so that was a huge help for us to move toward what we have today with Server Slam and launch. And I realized people would like if there was a bit more things for them to do in Server Slam, but it really is meant to be a small introduction to the game. And really, I hope with what we've got in there, people can project forward a little bit to what they can expect with launch. But of course, we would really like you to dive in on the 30th and see all of the work that we've put in since Tech Test 2, things that weren't quite ready for Tech Test 2 and now have come in on top of those things. So I'm really excited to see how people feel about getting back in there in the full experience later on.
Awesome. And as if I've been sticking to the script at all, I want to go a little off script here as well. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but it has been repeated in chat so many times, I can't ignore it. A lot of people want to know, at the very least, what they can expect from their post-launch roadmap. Once the game is in our hands, and once maybe players have had time to get through the main story, progress a little bit, maybe get a couple more hats for Scrappy, what is the what is it going to look like? What can we expect?
So I think internally, for a very long time, we referred to this as a 10-year game. So that is the ambition that we're aiming for, and that kind of dictates the type and quantity of content that we want to put into it. So we're not at this stage going to discuss exact roadmap details. That stuff can quickly spiral into promises that can go unfulfilled if things change. But of course, adding things over time like new maps and extending quest lines and introducing new enemies and new weapons and things like that. So, you know, we'll have some stuff lined up post-launch and for a little bit after, but then it will be based on what we see out of the launch and then going thereafter to kind of start dropping the content that we need to.
Amazing. I'm so excited. I saw so many smiles out there when you said 10 years. I don't think anybody was expecting to hear that. So absolutely great stuff. And before we wrap this up, I know that we have one final thing that we want to touch on here. There is a very special character within Arc Raiders that I think has a little bit more story that we need the people to know, that people at home need to know this, because it was groundbreaking for me to hear. But chat, I think that it's time to ask Robert about the story of Scrappy.
So, it was a bright morning on it. No, sorry. You've played the game, and even if you haven't, the workshop, I'm sure most people are familiar with that, has all these workstations and workbenches that would serve your sort of crafting loop and all these things. And you really want to try and attempt and make these things aspirational and fun and engaging beyond just being tools on a bench. So one of the designers came up with this idea of the sort of resource machine to add some kind of charm, because charm is a sort of guiding light that we apply to the game through and through, especially in the visuals and the experiential things, because it is it's a dark premise behind this game, but we want to make a kind of an inviting presentation of it. So charm is absolutely crucial in there. So they suggested that can we explore this resource machine to have some kind of personality? So can we make it a little bot or something? But we're pressed for time, especially for, I think it was TT2?
Yeah.
It was TT2. So we wanted to do something, and of course the first thought goes to, can we just, use a cat? Everyone loves cats. They're adorable. But we didn't have time. Making a cat, getting it to be animated, having it function, all the work that goes behind it is an incredible undertaking. So we sat there in silence thinking about it, and one guy said, we do have a rooster. So a guy on the 3D team made a little rooster as a sort of background thing, running around in the cantina, just standing there. And we figured, let's try that and see how it works. So there's a whole story behind the rooster itself. It's based off of a real rooster that this 3D guy's parents owned. It's called Håkan. So he'd taken pictures of it, made a very simple mesh around it. It has a very simple little rig that can animate, and that's what we saw. And honestly, it was a gamble. but we kind of gambled on going, there's a whole Rooster meta in here somewhere. We'll see. People are going to like it. And yeah, lo and behold, it became a whole thing. So the next step was to make high-def Håkan, and that's what we're seeing in Server Slam now.
Amazing. And you honor that Rooster's legacy now with Scrappy. I mean, he's still alive. With Scrappy not only being the mechanic to keep your progression going, but also as something that you can really look to earn things for, as far as what a lot of people will find purpose in. And so I think I actually can show off a little bit of what we have in store as far as some future Scrappy content. I love that so much. So, Scrappy Cosmetics and I guess Scrappy Rewards here. So, Virgil, can you tell us a little bit how is this going to work? What are we looking at here with the Scrappy hats? I mean, somebody did say on Reddit that it's been way too many years since we've had a good hats game, and so the fact that Arc Raiders now gets to wear that hat, it feels phenomenal. But can you tell us more about what this is for?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's part of our reward loop, so you can, through your actions, through quests, through the Raider deck, get, new fits for Scrappy.
He is drippy. He is quite drippy. Honestly, though, I got to say, this has been an absolutely amazing Q&A session. I'm very thankful. We'll take some final questions here before we send it off. If anybody still has any remaining, yes, you, the persistent one in the front, yes.
I just want to say that, thank you. I've played so much of the finals, and I really want to thank Embark for just being the first studio in such a long time to just make fun games across whatever genre you guys go into.
Thank you.
The question, does the Arc Raiders team have a philosophy for endgame in Arc Raiders? You guys talked about wipes being optional, which I am a huge, I really appreciate that. Outside of continually going to the maps and looting up gear and bringing it back, is there something that your team really wants to push for game players that are just hardcore about the game? Let's say there's other games that have set maps you can go into later down in the pipeline. Is there something that your team really wants to push for endgame, or is there something that we should be expecting on launch?
I think you can see some of the elements today. So if you've played, you might have seen the things we call map conditions, which kind of really either minorly or majorly change up the gameplay in those. So I think that's one element that we're going to really lean into is you could take a familiar setting, a map you're already comfortable playing, and we really apply a big twist to how it plays out.